Miami Dolphins beat the Buffalo Bills. We spoke about this game, Sean. We kind of previewed it in our last podcast. If you guys don't know who we are, my name is Kevin Barral from the KO Sports Corner. We have Sean Millerick, our Miami Dolphins contributor, and my podcast host for football in Florida. We're not talking today because they lost to a team that they paid $1.5 million to play. So we're not talking about them today. We're talking about the Dolphins and beating the Buffalo Bills for the first time since 2016, I believe. So it's been a very, very long time. It's been 4 seasons, Sean. So overall thoughts on the game. You were watching it from Lone Depot Park at the Biscayne Brewery. So just share your thoughts, man. Miami finally, I guess you could say, climbs one of the bigger mountains of the season and beats the Buffalo Bills, finally getting it going there. Although secondary was out, full secondary was out. And then not only that, they had a lot of injuries. We saw former Dolphin Greg Mance take a couple snaps out there in the offensive line.
Just so huge, because everything for years with this team has been about catching the Buffalo Bills, closing that talent gap with Buffalo. Trying to catch up in the arms race, be able to match point for point with Josh Allen, slow down that Buffalo defense line, all of it. They've just clearly been the most talented team in the division the last 2-3 years, and that was the big question heading into the season: is did we finally do it? Did we do enough? And as that game was winding down, I don't think we felt good about this being a Dolphins win until the clock expired, honestly, because Allen was just driving down the field, but it was clear through the whole game that we had done that. Like, even if this hadn't been a loss, that this was still like, okay, this is a different Dolphins team. Like, we are close, we are competitive. As you said, Buffalo did have some injuries in the secondary, and Miami definitely enjoyed some help from their 13th man, the sunshine. Lots of Bills fans complaining about the fact that they have to play in the sunlight, and they don't get shade on that side of the stadium, and while that's very disappointing for them, it's just great to see the Dolphins grind out one of those September wins over a division rival like this. And that's just such a big moment for this franchise and organization. Fans and the team certainly should feel very excited about this 3-0 start that this win gave them. And that's 3-0 against 3 good teams that are competing for the playoffs. So this felt great, and seeing a bunch of dejected Buffalo fans that had come down here because why be in Buffalo when you can be in Miami? Down there, it was very nice.
It felt good. You saw all the videos on Twitter, the plane ride over here to Miami. You saw them taking over a specific area of Florida. So it feels good to see some Buffalo Bills fans leave that stadium quiet, let's say. And there aren't really any excuses because Buffalo has some of the best depth in the NFL. Their team, you could argue, is the best in the NFL. They still have their QB and their best wide receiver. So their offense was basically intact until the game began. Stephon Diggs did deal with a lot of cramps during the game, though. I don't know if you noticed that towards the end of the game, but let's look at the box score. Tua Tagovailoa, 13 completions out of 18 attempts, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, was sacked once. So good there. Teddy Bridgewater, 0 for 2, 0 yards, 0 average, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, was sacked once. QBR of a 4.0. Tua's was a 79. So Teddy Bridgewater entered. We'll get into that in a second. Running game wasn't really effective today, Sean, unless it was the goal line. We had Chase Edmonds with 6 carries for 21 yards, 2 touchdowns. The longest was 8 yards. Raheem Mostert, 8 carries, 11 yards, no touchdowns. So there you have it. And then Alec Ingold, who is their fullback, who they've been implementing a decent amount there. 1 carry, no yards. Let's talk about, I guess you could say, the player of the game for the Miami Dolphins on the offensive side, which is Jalen Waddle. 4 receptions, 102 yards, and no touchdowns, but he really got the chains moving for Miami on a couple plays during that third quarter. Tyreek Hill, 2 catches for 33 yards, and then Durham Smythe, 3 catches for 23 yards. Rivercraft had a touchdown today. one catch for 11 yards. That was the touchdown play. Who else to mention here? Mike Gesicki, one catch, 6 yards. Nothing crazy on that end. Then Miami fumbles. Evan Ingram got a fumble there. No interceptions today for the Dolphins. So let's quickly look at the Buffalo side. Obviously, Josh Allen, 42 for 63, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, was sacked 4 times. And then looking at the rushing, it was bad when Josh Allen led the team in rushing today with 8 carries for 47 yards. Zach Moss followed it with 4 carries for 46. Devin Singletary, thank you for 24 fantasy points, 9 carries for 13 yards. Devin Singletary was the best receiver today for the Bills. Nine receptions for 78 yards, followed by Isaiah McKenzie, 7 for 76, 7 for 74 by Stephon Diggs. Gabriel Davis wasn't a big factor today, 3 receptions for 37 yards. And then finally, Dawson Knox, who was questionable coming into the game, played 4 receptions for 25 yards. This really shows how good Miami has been this season, Sean. Let's get into Tua quickly, though. I want to talk about, I believe this was the second quarter. I was not able to watch the first half of the game, but you watched the whole thing. So Tua's injury, they say lower back, but then you see him kind of get up and he looked like he was just completely concussed. The NFLPA and the NFL are going to actually launch an investigation about this moment here, just looking at how the concussion protocol was handled, because Tua entered the game and he looked completely fine right after. So your thoughts on that whole situation, how all of that unfolded, and your thoughts on the upcoming investigation. How do you think that'll go?
I mean, I think innocent to proven guilty. I mean, I've had a sprained back, and so I mean, I could see falling over if that was it at that point in time, if his back was locking up on him. I mean, it definitely looked bad. I mean, you saw that whiplash motion. He got up, he shook his head, and then he fell. And that's the optics on those 2 sequences, of plays or moments aren't good. But I think what I had heard from McDaniel after the game was that they said that this might have happened like on the sneak. There was a QB sneak there earlier where he definitely just like stuffed himself into the pile a couple times before Edmonds got in, I think. And so I mean, that's definitely believable. And there were a couple of plays where I can imagine him hurting his back immensely, and I don't have a problem believing it. And if it was already stiff, then Milano slamming him into the ground unnecessarily would have certainly added to that. You like to think that the Dolphins wouldn't have put him out there if it was not the best thing for the player. We've got you mentioned his Bridgewater stats there, but we've got a pretty good backup. If you were to list like the top 3-4 backups in the NFL, I mean coming into the season, Garoppolo would have been 1. Bridgewater might be 2 on there in terms of someone you feel comfortable coming into the game and taking over. He got that glowing recommendation from Sean Payton right before Tua's big Baltimore game. Super Bowl winning coach saying he thought Bridgewater should be running the team. He was wrong, but still, it's a good recommendation for his ability. So I don't. Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope that the Dolphins come out exonerated. I applaud the NFL Players Association for wanting to make sure that all players are being treated properly and everything. But then at the end of the game, I mean, the Dolphins definitely did their homework if something was suspect. I mean, Tua came out all bandaged and wrapped up on his back. He definitely looked like someone who had hurt his back. And yeah, I mean, I don't think they'd have him out there if he wasn't going to be effective.
I want to talk about the defense, Sean. I mean, this was a defense that was out there for about 38, 40 minutes in the hot Miami sun, where it's 90 degrees, feels like 100. The defense stepped up. Today was the defense, man. I mean, at the end of the day, today was defense's game. They were able to contain Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. You heard the box score. They contained it. They did their job. Yes, today I would say was probably, we see week one, it was the defense. Week two is the offense. Week three, I think the identity of week three was a full, complete game from both sides of the ball. Offense and defense were able to work, and well, it was just a complete team game today. But the defense out there for a very, very long time. You saw a couple of the offensive linemen on offense. They couldn't keep it up. It was very hot in Miami. Stephon Diggs was cramping up basically every other play towards the end of the game. Sean, your thoughts on the Miami defense today and how they played?
Oh, they dominated. It's definitely one of the big advantages we have playing down here in South Florida, and sure it goes the other way in December, right? Those snowpocalypse games we'll play in Foxborough and Orchard Park in December, won't be fun. So those fans complaining should keep that in mind. It all comes around
Yeah, with
when
that
we
snow game, yeah.
when two has to go play in the code, but defense was on fire today. Really took over. That's 2 out of 3 games where they've been able to do that, and they did step up into fourth quarter last week. We've got That's why we added all the offensive weapons we did to this team and kind of went all in now. That's because this defensive is playoff caliber, deep playoff run, playoff caliber. And it was great to see them taking over. Javon Holland especially. 10 tackles, 1.5 sacks, broke up a couple passes, almost had a big interception there at the end. His hands are on it. That was one of his passes defended, just bounced off. And there were a few of those late where just, bouncing off of Howard's and Holland's hands. They were really attacking and going after the ball. And so I think you're really seeing some players break out. Jerome Baker was great today, 13 tackles, all over the field, wrapping up. And I mean, Allen did throw the ball a lot. I think it was like nearly 60 attempts, had 400 yards, but kept them in check, kept them out of the end zone. Defense bent but didn't break, and it's definitely a big positive going forward for this season.
Yeah, and I want to quickly talk about the end of the game to then preview week 4, which will be coming up very, very soon there. So talking about week 4 there, Thursday night football against the Cincinnati Bengals. But the end of the game, your thoughts on that, from the butt punt. There was obviously the butt fumble. Now there's the butt punt with Thomas Morstead. Very weird drive there, I will tell you, Sean. Why couldn't they just get it out of the end zone? What was the point of keeping it in there? I guess they wanted to punt it away as far as possible to just let time run, but you keep a minute 40, and then before that, you're able to keep Buffalo with all 4 downs, and Bassfield misses the field goal that could have potentially given them a lead or tied it. It was just so crazy, Sean. So if you want to kind of break down that final quarter, the last 10 minutes of the fourth.
And I mean, for that last drive, I mean, I was a little surprised as we were just kind of letting Buffalo eat up clock and work their way down. I feel fairly convinced at this point that McDaniel's crazy in terms like good fun crazy in terms of risk and play calling. I kind of went through the full spectrum of thinking that they're just going to let him score so we get the ball back, to then the defense comes up with this big stop right there on the goal line, and shuts down Josh Allen and Buffalo, and it's like, all right, that's great. We're all cheering and we get the ball back, and this it was just the way Buffalo was moving, you thought for sure they were getting in. And then we stop them. So it's like, okay, but it's at the 2 essentially. This is horrible field position, and even then, like, well, okay, well, McDaniel's got something up his sleeve. It's gonna be a flea flicker for 60 yards to Hill or something, or ridiculous. But no, we went full Tony Sparano there and just went running up the middle 3 times, and it's rough field position. But I expected something more creative, before third down. So I guess 2 times, and then we did a quick play fake, and he couldn't get the ball off to in time to complete that pass on the flat to Mostert. And then the butt punch, right? So I haven't seen that, drilling it right off of Was it?
It was right in the end
Wasn't
zone.
Craig Craycraft, but right, yeah, right off of his teammate's butt, ricochets right back over everyone's head, gives him 2 points, and then we're kicking it away, and you're thinking, oh well, all right, so it's 2 points now. A field goal wins it. How are we possibly going to keep him out of field goal range? But to the kicker's credit, after a butt punt that will live on forever, really got it down, pinned him deep around the 20, 23-yard line, and then just was that battle against the clock. And you just until the clock expired, you really thought they were going to get there. Then just disastrous clock management. I don't know if they weren't hustling or what was happening, and then just the clock hit zero. They couldn't line up. We got that big tackle on McKenzie in bounds, and then they just couldn't line up in time, and it was great.
It was amazing. It was. And
to
it
see
did
that
look
happen.
like McKenzie was injured as well. And you look at it, Josh Allen looked like Houdini out there. I mean, this guy, all Dolphins defenders on Josh Allen, and all of a sudden you just see him pop out and get that small pass to McKenzie. That shows how good Josh Allen is. He's definitely one of
I
the
thought that
best.
was the game right there.
I thought that was the game as well. I thought, all right, you got Josh Allen down. Let's see what happens now. And you also have to keep in mind who's their kicker. It's I believe his name is Matt Bash or something like that. He's very, very good. One of the best kickers. He had not missed until today. So let's preview Thursday night football. Our guy John putting up pictures. Try to see if we could find us a nice. The last time the Dolphins played the Bengals on, I believe it was Thursday night. It was that color rush game where the Bengals were in all white, the Dolphins were in all red. I'm sorry, all orange. So let's preview this game. Grant Kiefer, if you're watching, or Kiefer, if you're watching, Fish Stripes guy, you know who I'm talking about. I hope the Bengals lose, but let's preview this. Joe Burrow versus Tua Tagovailoa, the first QBs taken in the draft, are going up against each other for the first time ever, because the last time that Tua went up against the Bengals, Joe Burrow was out with the torn ACL, and he faced their backup, who not good, no bueno. So you're going up against the 1-2 Buffalo Bills, the defending AFC champions. Sean, what are the keys to beat the Bengals?
Well, I think we're going to need more of a pass rush to get to Burrow. We've got to keep multiple receivers in check there, and Chase and Higgins. And if you think you've got them covered, then Tyler Boyd's just like a better Isaiah McKenzie. Over the middle, as a third option there. They have so many weapons. Joe Mixon, we were able to shut down Buffalo's running game today, but Mixon is a lot better than Devin Singletary. Standout fantasy game with Singletary aside, who I think I cut earlier this season. So that was fun to watch him go off. But yeah, I think it's going to be a similar formula to this one, honestly. Keep like Burrow could feel free to rack up his yards. We keep him out of the end zone, control the run game. You'd like to see a little more, maybe Dolphins eat up a little more clock than they did today. Buffalo dominated time of possession, and that was still just that made it even more amazing, kind of the win today, of how much time they were on the field, and maybe they were just able to bake that much more in the sun, the offense, and that obviously slowed them down, I think. But we won't have that going for us at night in Cincinnati. So it's defense will need another big game. And you mentioned Tua versus Burrow, but I think it's still going to be interesting to see if we do see Tua versus Burrow with the right. I mean, if this is a short week for a quarterback with a back injury, and I'm kind of holding my breath to see what happens there. And you could almost even, I think, make the case that maybe they should rest him. They have any doubts, because this opening stretch for the Dolphins schedule, like, who would have thought we'd be 3-0 and looking at a chance for 4-0 when you heard we were playing Patriots, the Ravens, the Bills, and the Bengals to open the season? But here they sit. We'd have all taken 3-1 with that, and with the rest of the season up ahead. So I'm curious to see what they do there. But if it's all systems go, then really the same formula for the Bills just needs to be applied here.
Yeah. Hopefully Tua plays in this game. I would like to see that matchup. It'd be the first time we see it. Joe Mixon did not have a good game today, actually. So we're recording this on Sunday. It's about to be, or well, we were. Now it's like about to be 1 a.m. But anyways, yeah. Hopefully Miami could just win it. I would say attack the rush game a little bit more. They haven't done that as much. I would like to see how that goes. I know Cincinnati's defense is really good, but I think Miami has the better pass rush here. And if you could get that offensive line moving a little bit more, let's see what happens there. So, Sean, I think this is where we will wrap it up. Do you have anything else to say
Okay.
about Buffalo game or the upcoming Thursday night football game? Actually, I'll ask you this: how 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 did this adjustment? Because now Miami's on a very short week. So how important is it for them to not only rest up but be prepared and change their whole game plan so quickly for a team like Buffalo?
That's part of why I said they're going to have to maybe serve them to go with a similar game plan to the Buffalo game for the Bengals, because I think it just translate that effort right over.
Yeah.
But it's always a challenge. We've seen some pretty brutal Thursday night appearances by the Dolphins over the years. But last year one really good one. Last year we go back to that Ravens game.
Yeah.
On there, so they could come out. Fire it in surprise. If they do win, I will say it'll be the first time the Dolphins have been 4-0 since 1995. So this hasn't happened since Shula territory. If they get off to that strong a start, so that's exciting, and I hope they can do it.
And looking way ahead, the Dolphins are basically favored to win every single game moving on, because you're playing the Jets, you're playing the Vikings, the Steelers. I don't know when is the next team that they really won't be favored. Maybe the Steelers is that one game because of that defense, but this is where we're going to end it, Sean.
Next 7 games, yeah, and then it's and then the 49ers, which you wonder if they just know what McDaniel's going to do. That's game 8, so I think that'll be interesting.
That will be interesting. Is it in San Francisco?
That I forget. Okay. I just know the 17th before it is our much lighter competition.
Yep. So here's where we'll end it, Sean. Just a quick preview of what's coming up. Obviously, we today recorded a Marlins podcast talking about Don Mattingly, so that'll come up at some point this week. On my end, just stay tuned to Fish Drive, see what everything we're doing over there. Sean, you can find him on Call to the Pen, Miami Sports Minute as well. So, and you could also find us on the KO Sports Corner. Just search that anywhere. The link to our website is below. Sean's recap of the Buffalo Bills game most likely will be out by the time this podcast is out. So, Sean, thank you for hopping on. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, maybe talk some Canes, a little bit more positive on that end. We're not talking about them this week. Hopefully, things could turn up there on that end. John, thank you for, as always, I know you're in there. There he is, Dolphins. He's getting into it. So maybe this season he can talk some Dolphins with us, but for putting up the pictures, and obviously any complaints you have, I'll say this for every pod. When it comes to the editing, you could blame John. So thank you once again, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out and go Fins.